Well, the weather has finally cooperated and it's dried up just long enough for us to be able to tape a show for you. We have gotten weeks of rain, it seems like. And with this dry temperature and the sun coming out, our onions are really to the point that we need to be harvesting them. We've got two different types of plants as far as the way that we planted them. The ones on this half were our transplants, and this half of the varieties are the sets that we put in. We've actually got 4 varieties, and you can tell by looking overall that we've got one variety that is actually really to the point of harvesting, and that is our Texas sweet onion, which is right here. Really, there's some things that you need to keep in mind when harvesting onions. There's a lot of unanswered questions and some myths and different practices that people use. And one seems to be, when is the first time or the appropriate time to start harvesting them? Well, once they start drying up like this variety is here, that's a good clue as to the really ready to harvest. But if you'll notice, some of the ones have fallen over the tops here, and some people make that a practice of bending them over. And really, bending the onion tops over doesn't help size up the bulbs anymore. That's just a sign that they're starting to dry up. But for us to be able to harvest all of these at the same time, we would want to go in and bend that top over. And that's one thing that we've done with some of this variety that's a little bit greener, and that just helps make it a little easier for us to harvest them at the same time. Now there's really 4 things you need to remember in harvesting onions. First of all, you need to pull them. And you can do that a couple of days ahead of time even, and just loosen them up a little bit, disturb them, and just let them sit there. But really the best thing to do is when you pull them, go ahead and get them out of the ground. And some people will just lay them on the side like this and let them dry, and they do need a period of drying. But a big problem is that people will do this and leave them several hours in the garden and they'll get sunburned. So the best thing is just to pull them, put them on newspaper, and then maybe sit them under a shade tree or something until they dry, and that may be anywhere from 2 to 3 days. Then they need to go through a curing process, and that may take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. And basically what you're doing to let them cure is to let them kind of heal over a little bit where they get a stronger skin, but you want them to dry right along this neck part when they're curing, because if you cut into that or they're not cured properly, they'll rot, usually at the neck base, and that's when we shorten the life of our storage. So after you pull them, you want to let them dry for a couple of 3 days, then cure them for 2 to 3 weeks, and again that needs to just be where there's good air circulation. And then the other thing is storing them, and this is a kind of a fun thing. You know, we can almost write a book on 100 uses of pantyhose in the garden, but here's another use. You just take your cured onion, and to store them you just push them down in the leg, tie a knot like we've done here, push another onion in and tie a knot. And then when you want to harvest them, you can harvest them one at a time for eating and just go in and cut that pantyhose off. And of course we're using pruners here, so they're not going to cut on us. But you can cut them off one at a time with that knot there, and that's a good way to hang them up, or just hang them up in period. Now let's cut into one and see what it looks like as well. And we're going to cut it at an angle here so you can see that. They really are looking nice, and the foliage is starting to speckle on some of them. People ask that question quite a bit too, what's causing that? That's from an insect caused thrips, and they have sucking mouth parts, and mainly it just distorts the foliage, and this time of year it really isn't a problem because they're starting to dry and harvest as well. So we'll harvest these up here and dry them and cure them, and we'll see how they taste in the kitchen tonight as well.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.